Hey guys, welcome to your lesson on phrases. Let's read through the introduction that we have here about phrases. We start the construction of your writing with the phrase, one of the key building blocks of the sentence. There are going to be several different kinds of phrases that we'll talk about, including the prepositional phrase. That should be very familiar to you from last year. There will be some subcategories of the prepositional phrase as well. We'll talk about appositives and we'll talk about verbals. So let's talk about the definition of a phrase. A phrase is a group of words that's going to function as one part of speech or a single part of speech. And a phrase will not have both the subject and verb. It may have one or the other, but it won't have both. So as you write, you're going to use phrases to do three things. They will add detail by describing, giving you more detail. They will make your meaning more precise, and it will fold in additional information. Okay, so basically detail, detail, detail. All right, these are this table shows the different types of phrases. The appositive, you were supposed to cover that last year. That was in 6th grade curriculum. And that is just a noun or a pronoun that's going to rename the noun or pronoun that is right before it. So here's your example. The phrase a Viking is the appositive here, and that simply renames Lou. Now, you've got the prepositional phrase, and again, that is something that you worked on last year. You should know those prepositions backwards and forwards. Examples of prepositional phrases, by the lake and of my friends. And I chose of my friends because of is a preposition that most people don't recognize. So make sure you recognize of as a preposition. Now, there are two types of prepositional phrases. You need to be able to recognize these. This is a great example of a group of words working as one part of speech. We've moved beyond looking at a single word as a part of speech, and now we're looking at a whole phrase working as a part of speech. This is a more complex thought, and so this is something that you will need to really study and revisit often, okay? So your the prepositional phrase here with red gills. This is the prepositional phrase, preposition. It begins with a preposition. The whole thing is going to work as an adjective to describe the word fish. Okay? Which fish? The fish with red gills. So this phrase works as an adjective. The prepositional phrase can also work as an adverb. Let's look at this example. We cheered with loud voices. Now here's that same preposition, but this time with loud voices tells how you cheered. So this one is describing the verb, which would be an adverb. Here, this phrase describes a noun, which would make it an adjective. Okay? So that's how prepositional phrases can work as adjectives and adverbs in sentences. All right, now moving on. This is a new concept. All of these up here should be familiar to you already, but now these might be a new concept to you. Now we're talking about verbals, and that is a verb form which is going to be used as another part of speech. Okay? participles. It's a verbal phrase that functions as an adjective in a sentence. Okay, let's look at the example. Eating slowly. That is the participial phrase. Okay, most of the time when we see the word eating, we think that is the action. But let's look at this in the sentence. Eating slowly is not the verb in the main part of the sentence. Do you see what the verb is? The verb here is was. That is your verb. It's a linking verb. So eating slowly is going to describe the word child. Okay? Which child? The one who was eating slowly. That is an adjective. All right? Make sure that you understand was is the verb in the sentence, and this phrase is not. It's an adjective describing child. Okay? Okay, now we come to the gerund. The gerund is a verbal phrase that functions as a noun. So, let's look at our example sentence. Running long distances. There we go. Running long distances. Here is the part that most of us would consider as a verb. It makes it look like it's a verb, but look at where it is in the sentence. It is at the beginning of the sentence. What usually comes at the beginning of the sentence? The subject. So actually in this sentence, running long distances is the subject of this sentence. It and then requires is the verb in the sentence. So what requires great endurance? Running long distance requires great endurance. So this now becomes the subject and the noun in the sentence. So it is no longer acting as a verb, even though you see this ing that makes you think it's a verb. Again, requires is the verb here, is your action. All right, moving forward. The infinitive. It's a verbal phrase that functions as, and it can function as anything, a noun, adjective, or adverb. And it's easy to remember because it's always the word to plus a verb. So, to sleep late on Sunday, that is an infinitive. To sleep is the main part of that infinitive. And this is also acting, in this sentence, it's going to be acting as the noun or the subject of the sentence because it answers the question, what is a real treat? That would be the subject of your sentence. To sleep late on Sunday is a real treat. So all of that is the subject of your sentence. If we flip it around and say, I love to sleep late, I is the subject, love is your verb, and then here is the infinitive, to sleep late. Here it's going to be your direct object receiving the action of the verb. So it would be acting as a noun. So with the verbals, with the new ones, I would like for you to be able to recognize the different types, your participle, gerund, and infinitive. But we'll work our way into understanding and being able to recognize what part of speech they are. Right now, I just want you to recognize them, okay? Look at the keys, clues, if you will. The ing, typically, you would see that with a verb form. Ing, ed, think of irregular verbs that end with en, like broken, or other forms of your irregular verbs. So your participle and gerund are going to have the verb ending that you should be able to notice, and then the infinitive is very easy to recognize. It is to plus a verb. Okay? Now, don't be confused, because the word to can also begin a prepositional phrase. How are you going to tell the difference? When you have a prepositional phrase, what would you have? Would you ever have a verb with it? No. You're going to have a noun or a pronoun, like to school, or to him. So you would have a noun or a pronoun with a prepositional phrase, whereas with an infinitive you're going to have a verb, like to sleep, to run, to jog, to go, to sit, to believe. All right? We will continue to work on verbals, but make sure you can recognize phrases in sentences.